Hi, everyone.
Hi.
For plans from Humana, Aetna, and the Blue.
Hey.
Oh, there we are.
Welcome, everyone. Let's give it a couple minutes. I think we had 24 people sign up for tonight, so I'm going to give a couple minutes to see if we can try to get everyone in before we get started. Actually, if you're interested, if you want to change, rename yourself so that you have your branch name at the end, that'd be great. So we kind of know where you're calling in from, or what city, town. If you're wondering if you don't know how to do that, if you go to hover over your picture, there's 3 little dots in the corner. If you click on that, it gives you a drop-down menu, and one of the options towards the bottom is rename. And then you can add your branch or your town, city at the end of that.
Okay.
Lotta's on her phone, so she put it in the chat for us. I think you should have got the message to be recorded. I think this is the first one I remembered to record. So as soon as I download and get up on the website, but I'm terrible at remembering to record it. So I set it up ahead of time so it would record automatically. So I wouldn't forget. So maybe one more minute.
Okay. Let's see what we can do here.
What did you say for putting your name on it?
If you want to rename yourself, you can just add your branch or your city at the end.
Right, where was the renaming?
Oh, if you hover over your picture
Oh, okay.
screen and it has the 3 dots, has a drop-down menu.
Oh, I was like, where am I hovering?
Yeah, and then rename is at one towards the bottom.
There you go.
Not dropping down. Okay.
All right.
Will that always stay in, or do I have to do it every time?
Patricia, you're kind of muffled. I'm not sure if you're too close to your microphone or
Can you hear me now?
we can hear you, but it's really muffled.
That's
I'm not sure how to fix that. Mesa home. All right, I think we should go ahead and get started. Bev, do you mind if I make you a co-host? Just I know Lotta's on the phone right now, and I can make you a co-host. So if anyone comes in, you can go ahead and let them into the room.
Will do.
Yeah, if I'm gonna share my screen, it's harder to see that.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. All right, well, welcome everyone. Thanks for being here tonight. This is the biggest group we've had so far, and hopefully we have a few more people to join us. I'm Charmin Gehring, and I am the DEI chair for the state board this year. I'm also your president-elect for the next, another 6 months, 5 months, and then I'll be your president. I'm gonna go ahead, and actually, before I share my screen, I just want to introduce 2 people. Carmen Hobbs is on, and she is one of my advisors this year. we went having a committee, an actual formal committee. So I have 2 advisors, Carmen is one, and then Lotta Murti from Santa Maria is another. Carmen's in Sacramento. And they've been helping me work on things. We actually have something new this year. The communications team has been sending us social media posts and things to review and just to look at making sure that they, are inclusive and really project the equity and the DEI image that we're hoping to project from AEW. So it's been nice to have that addition for our communications team to have, another set of eyes looking at it from a different lens. And then we're working on those of you who were here before, instead of having a bunch of activities or like the committee the way they've done in the past, we really thought we need to step back and create a strategic plan. This topic and this issue is so important for AEW and for our world in general. We wanted to really do it well, and we want to make sure it's not a one and done. We want something that's really becomes infused from the state board down to branch, IBCs, down to branch boards, down to our branch members. And it really is something that is just something that's automatic, that we just live, a vision of equity in our branches, but it's not just something that the DEI coordinator is doing. Everybody's involved in that. And so we felt we need to have really a strategic plan, a way of doing that. So it doesn't fall only on you to do that work, or only on us at the state level, but we're all involved in that. We all have buy-in from that. And so the way we started with that, we thought this year we really want to look at cultural humility. And that's what we're really focusing on. Not so much how do we get diverse members to join us, but what can we do to look at ourselves and our own biases and our own actions, and really building from that moving forward. So we're kind of focusing on cultural humility. And I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. I have a little, not a very long PowerPoint, but some slides on there to kind of guide us. Where to put it? All right, can everybody see that? Okay. Slideshow. So if you weren't sure where you are, this is your DEI peer group, your peer group chat. So we had some introductions, and then we'll share a little bit more about cultural humility, kind of building on what we've done in the last couple meetings. Creating our strategic plan. Our next step is really to do an environmental scan or an assessment of our branches to gather some data. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about our upcoming webinar that we have about Mary Church Terrell, and we'll see if anyone has any questions. So just to start, I'm throwing this slide in every time. It's something that we may not need here in our meeting tonight, but something that's good maybe for your board meetings or anything in your branch that you might want to use. It's just a way of being community and just being respectful of everyone in the room, making sure everyone is present, so that everyone is listening for understanding, not challenging ideas, not the people that we're friends, we want to have a relationship with in the future. And so just some kind of good guidelines for meetings. And then in this, the last one is one of the things really important when you're talking about issues that can be, difficult sometimes for some people to talk about things like race and privilege. The stories stay, but the lessons, you take the lessons with you. We don't go share, if someone shares a special story, we don't go share that with other people unless we have permission, but take the lesson with you. There might be lessons there, but we want to try to keep it a safe, confidential place so that everyone feels comfortable sharing. Oops. So I found this really great quote. I was looking at some things about cultural humility, and to arrive at, and I think this is appropriate for AEW, to arrive at a stance of cultural humility, individuals and organizations need skills in self-reflection and identifying personal biases, methodologies for demonstrating respect for others, and mechanisms for placing different cultural backgrounds and experiences on equal footing to eliminate a sense of superiority of any one path or background. That's from Ann Skeet in this article that she wrote about that. I think that's really important when we're looking at a branch or a state organization or even the national organization, that we all are coming, it's a journey for all of us and we're all in different places, but it really starts with ourselves and really like doing a lot of that self-reflection.
I forgot to tell you. So I looked at the credit card chart.
Hold on, there we go. So just looking at some ways that we can increase our cultural humility, and I'd love to have, if anyone has some additional ideas you want to add in, or you can put them in the chat, or we can have a little dialogue. But looking at learning about our own cultural background and how it influences our actions and our attitudes, our values, and our beliefs. This could be things like the way you were raised, messages that you received as a child, and some of the ways that I do this is I do a lot of reading. to learn about the issues, to learn about other people, to learn about whiteness and what that's meant to me as a white woman in America, and how, going forward, how my actions maybe influence others, reflect on my upbringing and the messages I was taught from my parents and my grandparents and people around me. And then considering how I have privilege. And a lot of people think privilege as well. I worked my way through college. I didn't have a lot of money. It's not only financial privilege. Just by nature of my white skin, I have had advantages that other women and other people do not have. And so really looking at those and learning more about that and how I can mitigate and make those maybe less, just I'm more aware of them, and ways I can look in my own world, how I can lower the impact, lessen the impact on that, and have a more positive influence on people around me and in my world. And so and you might have some other ideas. I think that Lotte had something she wanted to add to this one. Was Lotte or the next one? No, it's this one, I think. Oh, is she there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Is this where you want to add it?
Yeah, just a couple of things to keep in mind. That often our own attitudes, values, and beliefs are not just our own or our families, but they reflect societal and systemic attitudes, values, and beliefs. So the first step, of course, is doing the internal work on yourself and trying to change, right, your own biases and attitudes. And you'll never get rid of your biases, but you can work not to act on them. But then the further action, right, comes in addressing the more societal and systemic attitudes, values, and beliefs. So cultural humility on a larger scale. So I wanted to add that, and also what Charmin was saying in terms of racial privilege not being the same as socioeconomic class privilege. Often the two intersect, but you can find just online, in the media, not even online, there are continually stories of wealthy Black professionals in the United States who have their homes appraised at a lower value, right? Or can't buy a home, can't sell a home. And that's separate of their class privilege, because economically they're doing very well. That has to do with their racial privilege. And you might reflect on how cultural humility can help you as an individual, but also us as a group, address systemic problems like that.
Perfect. Thank you. Secondly, we can develop understanding and knowledge of worldviews of people from diverse cultural backgrounds. And again, the ways I do this are a lot of reading, watching documentaries. One of my favorite ones lately that Lotte and Carmen about is High on the Hog on Netflix. I absolutely love it because I love food, and also learning about where food comes from. And it's amazing. It's a really great limited series, and there's 2 seasons. Listening to TED Talks, seeking out businesses, restaurants, cultural events of diverse cultures, and immersing yourself in those. One of the things that I like to point out, though, is this is work that we're doing individually. This is not work that I don't reach out to women of color and ask them to help me learn. That's not their job. It's my job. And there's plenty out there for me to seek on my own. I do have a couple of really close friends who are available if I have some questions, or if I have some, something I don't understand, or I want to talk more about it, who are close friends of mine, and they're willing to talk with me about this. But I don't just go to, random women and ask them questions. I don't touch hair, all those things that you hear about. I don't do that because that's not appropriate. This is my learning, and there's plenty out there for me to do on my own. And then if you have really close friends or a family member that's willing to sit with you and talk, if there are things you'd like to have more information about, that's appropriate. But it's not women of color's business or job to teach us what we need to know. This is a white person problem. And so we need to start on our own addressing those issues. Do you want to say any more about that, Lotte or Carmen?
I agree 100%.
Ginny, do you have a question?
No, I was just going to make a comment that there is opportunities on an international level to do just that, and to get a better worldview of people. I have belonged to an organization here in LA, and I'm sure they have it in other major cities. It's called the Citizens Diplomacy. What is it? They changed the name. International Citizens Diplomacy Los Angeles. Usually they're connected with oh, I'm trying to think, the World Affairs Councils in various cities, but this is a standalone organization. And for the past, I don't know, 15 plus years, it's a membership organization, but visitors who are coming in to the United States from all over the world, they're government sponsored, are referred to, this organization when they're in the LA area. And we fill out a questionnaire with our, interests, our hobbies or whatever, what we'd like to do, and they match us up when visitors come in, and we host them in whatever way we wish. Usually it's could be on a weekend, but it could be a weeknight, and basically get to learn about them. It's really a one-on-one thing. So I've found it very, very rewarding over the years, and have met people from all over the world, and had some memorable experiences. Some people who came who, when they were going back to their country, didn't know if when they got off the plane, they were going to be arrested or not. So it's really kind of neat. So I thought I'd just throw that out there.
Thank you. Nancy's asking you to put if you'll type the name of that group in the chat.
Yeah.
Thanks. I know I just joined Friendship Force, which some of you may be familiar with. I actually, a couple of friends in AW are members. And so they also work to learn about people from other countries, and they host people, then they visit other countries. And so there's a lot of probably local groups and ways you can do this. There's a wealth of ways so that you can learn more about people without having to have them tell you all about it. So anyone else want to add anything else to that? Okay, the third one is an AEW, looking at our branches. How do we do this? And look at, besides working on doing our own work, like nurturing empathetic relationships, telling stories. I was talking a lot to before this call, and that, a lot of us think, and many of our members in our branches are white, and they're older white women. And so, it would be easy to paint the brush and say, oh, we're all the same, but we're not. Some people maybe grew up in poverty. Some people grew up in the South, some grew up in the North, some might have grown up in a lot of wealth, or some grew up, just different family backgrounds. And so there's a lot of ways that we are different, even though we may look the same. And so telling those stories, because that helps to kind of just grow the understanding of all of our people in our branches, looking at how we're all different, but we are all connected in a lot of ways, especially in our values in AEW. Always connecting to our mission and vision. I think that's a really great way as a member to really come back to what AEW is all about in terms of, equity and for women and girls. And that's really what kind of grounds us and connects all of us together. Conducting regular organizational self-assessments, which we're going to talk a little bit more about in the next slide or so. And then acknowledging uncertainty and change. And I think this is really important. I think it's really easy those are two of the scariest things, but they're also things that are inevitable. And I was just thinking, we have, many of you probably are aware of the National Board has put forth a bylaw recommendation again to do with our degree requirement. And regardless of how you feel about it, eventually it's going to happen. But I look at it as a DEI issue. It's an inclusion issue. It's an equity issue. We have, people in this society, in our country, who care very deeply about women's rights and women's equity, and yet they maybe don't have the exact requirement to join our organization, but they'd be fabulous in our branch and helping us, and we need everybody's help. And so kind of looking at that, there's a lot of uncertainty and change about that. A lot of the women who are against it, I think that AEW is going to change drastically, and it's not going to change at all. It will just be more inclusive. Anybody can join us who wants to have, has the same passion as us for women. So acknowledging that, and not putting it aside and not talking about it, but acknowledging that is definitely there. So this is what we're kind of asking for your help, to help us with creating a plan that will work, that will be sustainable for several years, not just till between now and like next fall. And I don't know if anyone who was on last time, if you read the B2B, I had put in the link for the AEW toolkit, DEI toolkit, where we can find talking about the environmental scan, the questions. But we thought I'd like it to be informal. You can include your branch board if you want. I actually think that it might be easier and more objective if maybe it was just you and maybe one or two other members in your branch rather than the whole board. Kind of doing just a look at your branch and kind of seeing where you fall on the spectrum that you'll see in the next slide and answering those questions. They look at retention and recruiting, programming, decision-making, and really how your board works and how what their what their ideas and values are in the area of like DEI and other members. Taking notes and then creating a summary of your branch strengths and weaknesses. Maybe noting where you feel your branch falls on this organizational spectrum, which I'll show you next. And then sending your findings to me at the DEI at auw-calca.org. And then we're hoping to use that. And I'm going to we're going to be looking at the state board as well and kind of the culture around the state board and the state in general. And we'll hopefully try to use this as some data to help us, plan this strategic plan moving forward. And I'll check. All right, there's a couple things in the chat that look interesting. Make sure you see that. So we showed this last month. This is a chart that's on the DEI toolkit website or page, and it's kind of looking where your branches fall. Just making an assumption. I'm assuming, because just what I know about different AW branches that I've belonged in, that most of our branches fall in the neutral individualistic category. We do have some in the closed homogeneous category. We probably have a few that are getting into that third welcoming assimilative category, but I'm betting we don't have hardly anyone in the last category. And that's really what we're hoping, is to try to get AUW, not this fall, not next year, but hopefully down the road, we're almost all in that category where we're really inclusive, inviting everybody into, and everyone feels welcome in our branches, but we're not there yet. And it's okay. We're just starting this process really intensively, and it's going to take a while. So, but this is kind of the roadmap of where we like to go. But we like you to kind of look at your own branch and try to kind of decide where you feel your branch falls overall, and asking those questions that we'll look at in a second will really be helpful, I think, for that. Oops. Are there any questions before I go to this website? Just real quick. Okay. Hopefully this technology is going to work today. Oops. Yeah, go ahead, Jenny.
Sharon, just what you just mentioned about any questions, the downside, I would say our branches between the second and the third, as far as that, we are very, very welcoming because of our branches dwindling. I mean, we're graying out. And basically, we welcome with open arms, newer people. But the downside is if you approach them too soon about getting involved and active, sometimes it turns them off. So you kind of got to figure a better way of doing that to catch them and get them in. It's kind of the opposite of what you're trying to do. We do welcome, but some of them are rather hesitant to get involved.
Right. Okay, so this is the toolkit, and what I always do to get to this page is I just go to the little looking glass, glass thing, and I just put in DEI toolkit, and specifically environmental scan, and it brings you to this page. And this is a toolkit. If you haven't looked at it yet, this is all for you, information for you as a coordinator, and there's a lot of great stuff in here. This is just kind of talking about your job, what they see your role as. We also have a list on our state website of some things we came up with for specifically our branch DEI coordinators, getting down to a committee. And this is where I really want you to come down to here. So here's the environmental scan. And so this is where it says, before we start planning, we need to know where we are. And so this is what we really want to kind of look at our branches and see where we are. And so this is some questions you can ask. In the last 2 years, have we actively recruited new members? Some may say, absolutely, we're always recruiting, we're actively that. Others, nope, they're not. They're not interested in having new members, or they don't feel that no one wants to join, or, to really be honest with these questions. What's the current demographic makeup? You may not have this exactly, but, in general, what's the general makeup? Retention rate. Do we know why they didn't rejoin if people left? What's working to help create inclusive environment? What are you already doing? What kind of programs have you organized the past 2 years? Who's your target audience for programs? so this is in one of my own branches, almost all but one of some really interesting sounding interest groups are all during the day. So their audience is not me because I work, so, and and I was president of the branch. And so, really looking at that, but being honest about it, they were okay with that. And they knew they wouldn't recruit any younger members, but they were okay with that. So just be honest with that. That's fine if they don't expect to have younger people involved, but they need to be able to accept that. How is diversity incorporated into your program calendar? What's your strategy been for reaching a broader audience? So kind of asking those questions. And then we're going to come down to activity instructions. This is actually, you could do this if you had a committee. I don't know probably how many of you have actual committees, but if you had a committee, this could be a committee meeting. I'm going to come down to examining your current progress. And so this has some more in-depth questions. Recruitment, how do we do that? What types of identities of people do we recruit? Are you recruiting only people that look exactly like you? Are we recruiting women who have just retired? Are you recruiting, women who are educators, or I don't know, what do you really looking at that? Retention, what do we do to welcome new people to our branch? I just joined, like I said, I just joined this friendship force group here in Sacramento. And I'm already sick of the number of emails I've gotten from this group. Like, it's amazing. They must have like a email newsletter thing on a Monday drop. Every single Monday I get an email reminding me about the meeting that was this past Saturday, reminding me about this coming up. I've had 2 calls from the president of the chapter. He's invited me to dinner with his wife next week. And so I didn't really feel like I could say no. So I'm going to dinner with him, but he is like really actively welcoming me to this group. And I'm sure he's thinking that mostly they're older retired people who travel. They're probably thinking, oh, she's younger, she's gonna take on a lot of our responsibilities. He's very wrong because I'm state president for AEW and I'm not gonna have time. But he's really going out of the way to really make me feel welcome, like they really want me in this group. And it was same at the meeting I went to on Saturday. Several people come up and welcomed me and asked me what I did for a living and who I was and what AEW was. And it was just, I've never had that reception in the AEW branch ever. And I thought it's a little bit much maybe, but it was also amazing. And I will definitely be going to another meeting. So then looking at the identity makeup, who's the programming for, who does it typically attract? How accessible are your programs? Looking in terms of location, date, time, and more. Another thing was we have members that are getting older. We need to make sure our wherever we hold meetings are accessible and that they can actually access them, whether they're in a wheelchair, a walker, or using a cane. And a lot of times, if you're not a person who uses those items, you maybe don't think about that when you're planning a meeting. So really looking at that. Communication, what methods are we using? Who or who doesn't use these? We all know we have branch members that don't use email. And so we need to make sure we have paper copies of things being sent to them. Leadership development. This is a big one for all branches. How do we get new board members? What do we do to encourage and support members being leaders? Who do we encourage? Who do we not encourage? And Ginny, this kind of maybe goes to your question a little bit, because sometimes it's hard to like ask new members to get involved. But on the other hand, had I not been a brand new member and someone asking me to join the board, I maybe wouldn't have been on the board for basically my whole time in AEW. But you have to kind of, that's why you need to really get to know people and what they're looking for. What's the makeup of our leadership? Does the leadership reflect the diversity of our branch? And then planning and decision making. Who's involved in that? What does the process entail? How transparent is the process? So these are some kind of the questions that we're hoping you'll ask yourself about your branch. Take some notes. You can go further if you want, but basically you want to kind of get that first.
So Charmin, you're like booking, right? So is this in the DEI toolkit part? There were a bunch of toolkits. There's a bunch of biasy toolkits, and then this is specifically the DEI toolkit on the website, yeah?
It's all part of the DEI toolkit. So let me just go to the top of it. Close your eyes if you get dizzy. This one is the diversity structure and planning. So if you just go to the little magnifying glass and put in environmental scan or appointing a diversity officer, it'll bring this up. But this is part of the toolkit. There are other pieces of it, but this is one part of it, the structure and planning.
So I just wanted to say that I just did the national, it ended up being like, I think 20-page survey on branches. And a lot of these questions are very similar. So I'm glad that there is so much coordination, or maybe it just happened inadvertently, but that's wonderful. Yeah.
Well, so National has their DEI committee, or they call it an Equity Inclusion Committee, has gotten much stronger in the last 2 years, and they're meeting regularly. Some of you might be on those meetings. And so they're really looking to try to really plan this out and really help branches as well. So
Right. That was just a branch impact survey. That's what it was.
Right, thank you. So if you all can find this, I will send it out in another link if you want, but if you just go to the DEI, you can put in DEI toolkit on the national website and it'll bring up the whole toolkit and just find this structure and planning. And it's kind of just the beginnings of, what you can do in your branch, and then take some notes. And like I said, I kind of think if we, and this is being pessimistic thinking, but if you involved your whole board, I think a lot of the tendency in a group would be, oh, we're doing great. We're doing fine with that. And it's maybe really not that way. So maybe if you had 1 or 2 people that you trust to give you really objective opinions about it, and many of you probably are pretty active in your branch, you have a pretty good idea of the answer to those questions already. But groupthink kind of tends to be, I think, more rosy than it is sometimes. And so I want to really try to get some really, some really honest answers so we can kind of really make a plan that will work. It's not going to overwhelm everybody, but also it will be around and will be, we really want this to not be something that we just stop doing in a year or 2. We want it to be something that we just continue on and that everybody is involved in and has ownership in.
Well, Charmin, I think part of the messaging for the branches too is this is not like an activity on the side. This is the path to your continued existence, because
Exactly.
otherwise all of the members will die.
Right.
Branch will be done, right? Like this is not.
And maybe won't say exactly like that, but yes, Lisa.
But this is, but this is how the organization survives.
Exactly.
But not just that, but also because that's how it should be, right? It should be diverse,
absolutely.
whether or not. Yeah.
Right.
Well,
right.
I like scare tactics, but both messages matter, because a lot of the members that I see are very concerned about not having diversity, but totally may or may not understand it.
Right.
And I think that they can understand if you actually want to continue, you need to build out into other populations. And these are tools to do that.
Right. And I think I would say that probably most of our members have really good intentions. And
it's not an intention problem.
It's not an intention problem. It's a not knowing what to do next, or it's not being really honest with where their own work is at, where they're at. I mean, Lisa's in my branch. And so I can tell you, I've been asking and wanting to do this work in this branch for years. And it's always like, yes, we need to do this work, but then nothing happens. So it's like, there's kind of like, yes, we know, but at the same time, we need to actually have action and put action to it too. And that's what we want to get to, where it's not, like you said, an extra thing. It's just something we do. We use an equity lens. We think about accessibility for people. We think about, do we need closed captioning? Do we need to invite, do we need childcare? You think about those things, not just what you need for the 80-year-old, but for anyone who you might like to have come to your branch.
Charmin, thank you for bringing these questions up, looking at it, because when I was on the National Membership Committee years ago, one of the things that I brought to their attention was what we call in Toastmasters, a club that is called Moments of Truth, where you take a club, and I was in the JPL club, where you take a club and you really sit and you have somebody, a facilitator, analyze what's going on. As a matter of fact, I wanted to get a person to do the Glendale one, but I couldn't find a woman, dang it, to do that. But it's really to have that facilitator address these questions. And as you went through the questions, and I'll go back and look at them, it sounds so similar to what I remember doing Moments of Truth in the JPL club.
Perfect.
So it's so wonderful to see this happen. So thank you so much for sharing it. And yeah, I just appreciate it.
And I know that we only have, I don't know how many people are on here right now, but we have, I think 116 something branches. We don't have 117 people on this call. We don't have a DI coordinator in every single branch. I think we have them in maybe 40 branches. But if we could even get 30 or 40 of our branches to start really seriously looking at this and really trying to start living this work and living, and having it just be part of what we do in AUW, that's a huge start compared to where we are today. And so it's going to take time. none of us, some of us may never see it in AUW. I hope we do, but some of us may not, because it may take a long time, or some branches may be much further along than others. And that's okay. It's a matter of starting and continuing and just not stopping, which is what I think we often do. Is
Carmen,
uh-huh.
Hi, I'm Diane from Fallbrook, and we have a really strong DEI program. I'm the chair. I've been working. We're starting our 4th year, and we just gave a presentation to our whole general meeting last Saturday. It was very successful. And our book club is also doing diversity books. For our Christmas party, we had Folklorico come in and dance at our program. And one thing that we've been doing to get people in the community all involved is nobody else is doing it in the whole United States. We mentor girls at the high school, one-on-one. And we have somebody who is a former principal. She's fabulous. She's putting the whole, she has it all together. But we've been doing this for over 10 years. And what we do is we each have 1, maybe 2 students, and it's a mentor program, and we go through AVID. These are the girls at the high schools that have a lot of potential. And I can't tell you, we're growing leaps and bounds. We have so many people in our groups. And yes, we do have, like some of the meetings are during the week, but our general is on Saturday. And you can mentor a student, and work around your schedule no matter what. Anyway, we're growing leaps and bounds. And I was just wondering if we could match up with a group that would like to have DEI, but that maybe we would partner with another group in California to get them going. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Can we think about doing that?
Yeah, I think that I think definitely collaborating with other groups is great. And what you sound like you're doing a lot of things. What we kind of were looking at this year is just kind of pulling back and really looking internally first. Because it's one thing to like I've seen it I'm in the Sacramento branch, and Lisa's in my branch. So I've seen it over the last few years several times where we'll have a woman of color come to a meeting and maybe even join our branch, but then you never see them again. And the reason is not because we don't have we're not a great group of women. It's not that they're not interested in equity or they're not interested in what we're doing. It's because something about that group didn't feel comfortable to them. They didn't see themselves represented in the group. They heard microaggressions. Something happened where they were not feeling welcome, and so they didn't come back. And that's unfortunate. And I don't want that to happen in our branches, because we can't grow if that's how, I mean, I've sat in my board meetings in this branch and heard women say things that I couldn't believe came out of their mouths. And if I was a woman of color, I would have walked out. And I would thought it's not a group for me. So we're looking at our own selves first and our own branches, so that we're welcoming places for people to land. So
I understand that, but that's how we started. You have to realize I didn't get to this place. We're on our 4th year. And everything you have in your list is what we have been doing.
Great.
So our DEI group alone has got 12 people. It started out with 4.
Well, I can't wait to see your notes then from your environmental scan on your branch. It'll be interesting to see.
I will. Yes, I will do that as soon as I possibly can. Yeah.
Great.
And how many members do you have in your branch?
Our branch has about 60 to 70.
60 to 70.
And some of the people that are not your typical white ladies and stuff have actually joined us because they were speakers for us. They came as a speaker about their culture, and then lo and behold, they joined. And not only that, they're in the DEI group as well. So our last presentation, our members actually gave their story of how they progressed since they've been in the group. So it was very, very moving. And, somebody who was a lesbian came out and broke down and cried, and we all just, oh my gosh, it was insanely fabulous. So we break it down into the 7 social isms, ableism, ageism, genderism, homophobiaism. And that's where we've been working at. I can't tell you, it's just been beyond what it's just been really, really successful. So what I would like to do is partner up with a group that's not, that where where somebody like me one-on-one with another community of AAUW. You see what I'm saying?
Okay. So I
Yeah.
think what would be great is, I would love if you have ideas, like things you do in your branch, any of you that have been successful, that have been really well received. I think we could start like a list of those and have a place online where we can list those so other branches can kind of see.
Right,
who's done
right.
what's
That
been
would be
successful.
great.
Yeah, so just feel free to send me
Yeah.
those. Feel free to send me anything like that. And there's, I saw in the chat, there was someone asking like about a deadline. It would be
Mhm.
really helpful if like maybe middle of February, just because we would need to kind of start
Okay.
on the state board is expecting me to have something to show them at the April and June meetings. And so I need to
Uh-huh.
start having something that we're actually working towards a strategic plan. So if we can, like in the next month, kind of start asking yourself or a person, help a friend help you, and get me some notes about your own branch. And then maybe if you could give some of the demographics, like how many members you have and which branch for sure. And then we'll kind of try to incorporate that into our ideas for the strategic plan moving forward. Because it's not all branches are gonna be in the same place. And we know that. So we want to make sure
Right.
that something that you can start with, you're brand new, or if you're Fallbrook and you've been doing it for 4 years. So
Right.
you want it to be something that everyone can use. So
So
just
Sharman,
yeah.
if we were going to make you as a group, if this group was going to make you successful for April,
Mhm.
what you want to be able to deliver, it sounds like what you're saying is if you got from everybody the number of members, their membership, and an honest assessment of where they are along those 5
Yeah.
or whatever, that would give you something that you could work with to build
Right.
on.
Right. You can even
That
look
would
at
be your ask.
right, like looking at, what are you doing really well? What are some areas that you really need to grow in? Like, what are some things that you're not doing so well that could be helpful? So they're kind of looking at that because we could maybe mold that in too.
I think
Kind
we
of-
need baby
Yeah.
steps.
Yeah. I think we need to know where we're at. So we need to know, and we're
So
going to be
that's where we really have to start is like, where are you at? And if you can give an honest assessment of where you're at, then there's a next step, but that's the like bare minimum
right. And I
to
can just
please
see from
deliver by April.
who we have on tonight, we have a wide variety of branch sizes that are represented tonight. So that'll be helpful too, because whether you're a large branch or a small branch, might make a difference depending where you're located. You might be, I'm going to call out Bonnie, you might be in Amador and have a branch that doesn't care one iota about any of this stuff, and that's hard. That's gonna be tough, but that's an honest place to start. That's where they're at. So, I'm gonna move on because we're getting over 6 o'clock. Oh, no, I have my mouse. So we have this coming. Hopefully you've seen this. Hopefully you've gotten at least one email, I think, or 2 emails about this. We have a webinar coming up on February 4th to Sunday afternoon. And this was actually, idea came to me from the Berkeley and Oakland branches. Karen Weinstein in the Berkeley branch had somehow learned about Mary Trish Terrell. We have on AEW, we have a list of women who are like pioneers or in activism for women's activism, and she wasn't listed. And so she started wondering why not. She started harassing AEW, and the AEW actually came out and said, you're right, she should be listed. So they've actually added her onto the website. And then there's a woman named Dr. Allison Parker, who's just written a book called Unceasing Militant about Mary Trish Terrell's life. It's the first full biography that's ever been done. And I bought the book and been reading it and learning more about her, and she's absolutely amazing. You can see her. She was born a slave in 1863. She died in the 50s, I think, 60s. She was a founding member of the NAACP, first president of the National Association of Colored Women. She collaborated with, she was just right up there with all of these people we all know about, but she was the name we've heard much. One of the interesting to her is she's one of the first Black members of AEW. She joined I guess back in the 30s or 40s. There was really no bylaw against not joining at the national level. So there were some women of color who worked at the national level, were members, but the branches had say at the time, and they all said no. And so she belonged at national level, but not the branch. And then at one point she wanted to join the DC branch, and they said absolutely not. Didn't matter that you in the past have been a member of national. We don't care. We're not integrating. And so she actually didn't do anything really about it with a lawsuit. There is the wording in the announcement of this is a little bit wrong. What she did was try to push the issue And national did a vote and it passed to allow women of color to join and college, historic Black and college universities to join, become people who graduated from there to be members. But the DC branch didn't like that and didn't want to follow that. And so they sued national AEW. So the DC branch sued, and so they lost. And so that's how AEW became integrated. So I love the parallel with this with the degree requirement, because we have not always been inclusive. We've had many changes in our membership over the years. And this was like, just, 50, 60 years ago that this was happening. And some of you, if you go on the website and look at the historic timeline, you'll see that even a lot of college universities were not members. People who went to college there were not allowed to be members until like the 50s, when they finally changed that any college university that's accredited could join. So there's been a lot of changes, but it's just really fascinating. So what Allison's going to focus on for us on February 4th is Mary's background, her activism, but really focusing on her work with AEW and working to integrate AEW and the challenges that she faced, but also the successes and the women that she met along the way. So it's going to be, I think, really interesting and a really interesting way to look at who we are now and kind of where we started and how far we've come, but also looking at how we have a lot of work still to do.
Who's that open to?
Lisa?
Yeah, who is that open to?
This webinar? Anybody? Anybody. I shared it with some women on a national call. So anybody can come. It's a webinar. So we can have, I think, up to 500, 1,000 people.
Can you drop the link for that too?
Yeah, it's on our website. It's on the state website.
Okay.
You can already go and sign up for it. And then
I
you'll
signed up for it already.
Good. Yeah. So you can go and share it. I've shared it with people too in other states. So yeah, I think it'll be really good. I think that so Allison came actually to the Oakland area at the beginning of January and a couple weeks ago, and she did an event in person. But we decided the two women in Oakland and Berkeley thought this would be great for the state. And so I agreed. So I think it'd be great for as many people in our branches to be able to hear it as well, not just the Bay Area. So please share it out. I hope you'll be able to come. It will be recorded and it will probably be available online the day or two after, like all of our webinars are. I think it'll be really interesting, especially the piece, the relationship with AEW as we continue with this work.
Will we all be getting an email about this? I know we can look on the website, but we also will be receiving, will all our members receive that information?
It's already been sent, I think.
I think I actually got one this morning.
I got one last week, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's been emails because I actually was able to put it in our newsletter for our branch. So something must have come out that I saw.
Yeah.
Oh, no, this morning I got one from the office telling me what I need to do next for the webinar. But I think that there was an email in the last few days. There was an email about it, but it is on the website as well. I think it's on maybe it might be on the front page. If not, it's under the webinar tab.
Okay.
And I think it's on board and board to board also.
It was board to board. Yep. So, all right. So any questions? We try to keep these to a little brief, short, I think. If you have any, like we said, the very first one, if you have any really pressing questions that are really your branch specific, we'd like to take that. It's like a breakout room or do a little more individual, but if there's anything for the whole group, any just questions about the environmental scan, what we're asking from you, to help us with the, I'm going to stop sharing, to help us with the strategic plan. If there's any, comments or things around that, I would be happy to take those questions or comments right now. Anyone? You can always reach out to me. Some of you you already have my charminme@yahoo email, or you can do the DEI@aew-ca.org. And reach out to me if you have for Fallbrook, if you want to send me some of your ideas of what you're doing in your branch. Anyone else has some things that are really successful. And I think collecting a few of some of those ideas is a good idea for all of us. No questions or comments? I hope you saw everything in the chat. There's a link for the webinar. There's a link for the toolkit that was dropped in there. And I will have this recording. I'll get it to the web team and have them put up the next couple of days as well. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for coming tonight. It was great to see so many faces I know and some new faces as well. And I hope to see you on February 4th. And Lisa, go ahead and stay on then. And have a great evening.
Thank
Thank
you. Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much.
Thank you.
Sherman, you don't need me and Carmen to stay on, do you?